Early hours of Wednesday morning, a residential neighborhood in South Minneapolis became the scene of a fatal shooting during a federal immigration operation. The incident, captured on multiple videos, has sparked protests, political fallout, and a growing dispute over what really happened. Shortly after 9:30 a.m., Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers approached a vehicle stopped in the roadway. Video shows an officer moving toward the driver's side as the SUV begins to move. Within seconds, another officer fires multiple shots. The woman was taken to Hennepin County Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead from multiple gunshot wounds to the head. She was identified as 37-year-old Renee Nicole McLean Good. Within hours of the shooting, Minneapolis officials confirmed the woman had died and said multiple investigations were underway. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said authorities were still working to establish the full sequence of events, but acknowledged the gravity of what had happened.
We collectively are going to do everything possible to get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit.
Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz also addressed the shooting, calling it the result of a dangerous escalation in federal enforcement tactics. He urged residents to remain peaceful as anger spread across the city.
To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops.
Federal officials quickly offered a very different account of what happened. President Donald Trump posted on social media claiming the ICE officer involved had been seriously injured and taken to hospital, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem echoed that account. She described the shooting as preventable, but said responsibility lay with the woman who was killed. Noem said that the woman ignored repeated commands from federal agents and attempted to harm an officer with her vehicle. She described the incident as an act of domestic terrorism.
Any loss of life is a tragedy, and I think all of us can agree that in this situation it was preventable. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism.
Vice President JD Vance went further, saying the officers' actions were clearly justified and criticizing state officials and the media.
The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life. A tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers.
An investigation by the New York Times examined surveillance footage, bystander video, and audio from the scene, reconstructing the moments before and after the shooting. The footage showed the woman's vehicle stopped at an angle in the street, with federal vehicles positioned behind her. At no point does the video clearly show an officer being struck or run over. The findings appear to contradict claims that the officer was seriously injured or hospitalized after being hit. The officer is seen standing and moving immediately after the shots were fired.
Away from the agent. This appears to conflict with allegations that the SUV was ramming or about to ram the officer. And it's true that at this moment in this grainy low-resolution footage, it does look like the agent is being struck by the SUV. But when we synchronize it with the first clip, we can see the agent is not being run over. In fact, his feet are positioned away from the SUV. The SUV crashes into a white car parked down the road. A bystander runs toward the collision. The federal agents on scene do not appear to rush to provide emergency medical care. Eventually, the agent who shot the motorist approaches the vehicle. Seconds later, he turns back around and tells his colleagues to call 911.
According to the New York Times, a physician was at the scene and offered to provide medical assistance, but the physician was actually told not to examine the woman.
I go check a pulse.
No!
Back up! Now! I'm a physician! I don't care!
In Minneapolis, questions around accountability are now playing out at both the local and national level. The city's mayor says the investigation must be fair and that it cannot become a cover-up. But speaking on the same issue, JD Vance took a different position, arguing that the state has no role in what he described as a federal investigation. Here's what both sides had to say.
We want to make sure that this investigation is fair, is thorough, and is complete. And I was saying yesterday that I was not going to preempt the work of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, as they were a really important component of this investigation itself. But seemingly, they've been blocked out entirely from doing this work by the FBI and this Trump administration. So is it problematic? Absolutely. Am I concerned about this development? Of course I am. We want to make sure that there is a check on this administration to ensure that this investigation is done for justice, not for the sake of a cover-up.
Enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action, that's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that.
Protests have taken place in Minneapolis and in cities beyond it, as demonstrators call for accountability and transparency and justice. The investigation is still ongoing, and as a pressure built both on the streets and inside government offices, the focus remains on what happens next.
Because when people hear those whistles, when people heard those